Ben, you talk about the 3 steps that America is being destroyed in or by. Let's talk about those 3 steps. What are they, and how is that destroying America?
So in order to understand what exactly is being destroyed, we have to understand what is supposed to unite us, or what originally brought America together. And that was 3 things: a shared philosophy, a shared culture, and a shared history. The philosophy of the United States was embodied in the Declaration of Independence, the idea that all men are created equal, endowed by that creator with certain inalienable rights, and that government was instituted in order to protect those rights, a limited government with limited powers designed not to invade those rights. That was the shared creedal philosophy of the United States. We were all supposed to hold that in common. That doesn't mean that it was perfectly applied. Obviously, it was not. But the history of the United States, the other shared feature of the United States, is a history in which we try to strive for the fulfillment of those founding principles, and we do better at that over time, increasingly spreading the application of those principles to more and more people, not just at home, but also abroad, and that is the glory of the United States. And then we have a shared culture, a culture that values social institutions like the family, that values church, that values a spirit of entrepreneurialism and adventure. And all 3 of those elements of America that used to unify us, the philosophy, the history, and the culture, all 3 of those are being destroyed right now, actively undermined by a group of people I've called disintegrationists. The disintegrationist philosophy believes that America is not in fact free, that America is merely racist and evil, and that all of the founding ideals are actually backward, that all men should not be equal before the law, that we have to determine via group identity whether people are treated in a particular way or not, that the government should not be limited in any way, that rights don't spring from God and don't pre-exist government. The same group of people believe that American history is the unending story of evil and oppression, this sort of the 1619 Project view of America, now being taught in your public schools. And then finally, they believe that the culture of America is wrong. The churches and families are obstacles to ultimate change in the United States and can be dispensed with safely. Government should override them, in fact, and that a culture of adventure and entrepreneurialism, a culture that says that you're owed nothing except the adventure itself, that is a bad culture and needs to be overthrown by a culture of entitlement.
I mean, I don't think anybody could really argue what you have just described that's happening to America. You talked about the disintegrationists, but who are these people? And exactly where are they coming from? And what is their motivation in wanting to destroy America? I mean, do we have names? Do we have places? I guess the question, who the heck are these folks?
There's a long history. There's a long history of people in the United States believing that the creedal founding philosophy of the United States was not true. I mean, there were secessionists prior to the Civil War and during the Civil War who believed that basically America was just an agglomeration of various interest groups, and therefore that when those interest groups no longer agreed, then some could go their separate ways. There are progressives in the early 20th century who believed that rights don't spring from God, they come from government, and that government should be empowered to simply give people what they need, and that people at the top of government should simply use whatever power was at their disposal in order to do so. There are people today, I would say that there are many members of the Black Lives Matter movement who believe that the United States was founded in cruelty and evil, and that the only way to fight that cruelty and evil is to overthrow all these systems of oppression that are contained in the Constitution of the United States, that basic American freedoms, things we hold dear like freedom of speech or freedom to own property, that these things are actually the threat to the possibility of the utopian future.